As an NBA fan, I'm just loving where the league is at right now. I say this a lot. You can look at a lot of my videos on my feed, but the league just seems super wide open right now. As far as championship contention, it seems like it could be a different two teams in the finals every single season. And quite frankly, that's a major change from what we saw as fans from like 2015 to 2019, where either the Warriors or the Cavs were locked to win their conference every single year. There is no active dynasty right now, and that adds a level of unexpectedness to the league, almost like how the NCAA is, where these surprise teams always seem to find their way in the mix. And one thing that comes with this are these amazing young teams that exceed expectations. We saw that last season, especially with the Thunder, as they were one of the youngest teams in the league while having the best record in the West. And so that got me thinking just a bit. Who are some of those young teams this coming season that are ready to take that major leap? And I'm not saying like OKC, where we'll see them go from being a play-in team to being the flat-out one seed in their conference, but just generally what young teams are going to make a complete 180 from last season and convince us that they can be good for years to come. One team that I think is going to impress us next season are the Houston Rockets. They came just short of a play-in tournament appearance last season, but there was still a ton to be excited about with them in their first year under Ime Udoka. And first off, shout out to Udoka for proving to us once again that he is an amazing head coach. He completely accelerated this team's development further than what Steven Silas would have been able to do. But yeah, the Rockets showed some amazing flashes last season. My favorite thing about them was that they were willing to go out there and play defense. They ended the year at the 10th spot in defensive rating, which to me is always impressive, seeing a young team be this willing to go out there and get after it defensively. And the rookies they had last year were just flat out impressive for them. Amen Thompson was just unbelievable in his first season for Houston. Sure, he showed off some flashes of offensive versatility, but it was his defense that was jaw-dropping. His ability to recover, rotate, and even guard multiple positions well on the ball make him a legitimate future DPOY caliber guy. He and Wemby gave us two of some of the most memorable rookie year defensive showings in recent league history. Cam Whitmore also showed a ton of promise in year one, putting up 12 points off the bench on some pretty solid shooting splits, not great, but still good enough for us to be excited. And add that to the solid offensive play of Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet on the perimeter, who averaged a career-high 8 assists per game, and also drained nearly 40% of his three-point looks. Alperen Şengün also showed us that he has legitimate all-star, maybe all-NBA potential with averages of 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists on 54% shooting. If they hold on to this defensive identity and everyone just makes those natural leaps from last season to the next, they can share a similar fate as OKC last year and end up as one of the most elite teams in the West. And also, I'm excited to see how Reed Shepherd kind of fits into this as a good point guard and playmaker off the bench. He did that at Kentucky, so I don't doubt he'll do a solid enough job filling that niche with the Rockets. Another young team that I think is going to take a big-time leap are the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, we know that they have Wemby, who I think sometime down the road is legitimately going to be the best player in the league. And one thing they did very well this offseason was adding some playmaking by picking up Chris Paul. I know it's just on a small one-year deal, but the last time we saw CP3 spend a year on a young rebuilding team, he helped get them back to the playoffs, and that was OKC in 2020. Then when he got sent over to Phoenix, it was that exact same effect, actually to a larger degree, as they made a finals appearance in 2021. And I know since then his game has probably deteriorated a bit, but Chris Paul has a way of getting through to younger players. And he's like the most ideal type of point guard to pair along with Wemby. The looks Victor will get playing along with CP3 will be ridiculously clean. Only thing you'd have to worry about here is the health of Chris Paul. He only played 58 games last season and just 59 the year before. But the basketball fit makes perfect sense. All we were saying last year was that the Spurs needed a good point guard next to Wemby. On top of that, Devin Vassell, who they extended just last summer, was really good last season, averaging nearly 20 points per game on great splits, and he's just going to continue to get better. And then there's Stephon Castle, who has shown a ton of promise on the Summer League circuit so far. I'm not saying this team will be like a lock for the playoffs, but they will be really good, possibly play-in tournament or borderline play-in tournament good, which would be a major leap from last season. And finally, I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic as a team that I think is going to make a huge leap next season. Just last year, they were one of the best teams in the East and did it primarily with an amazing defensive attack. Jalen Suggs especially was amazing on that end, guarding out there at the point of attack, and is a guy who we'll see in DPOY conversation sometime down the road. One thing they lacked last year was three-point shooting. They ranked near the bottom of the league in attempts from downtown and also field goal percentage. So not only were they getting a low volume of looks, but even when they got them, they weren't falling. And this made their offense mediocre as a whole, despite having a really intriguing 1-2 punch between Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. But they made a great move by signing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who is one of the most devastating three-point shooters in the league. In back-to-back seasons for the Nuggets, Nuggets, he drained 40% of his looks from downtown. And this was the only major addition they made to their roster, but with teams like this, you just have to trust the trajectory. In the 2022-23 season, they showed promise as a future playoff team. Then just last season, they followed up on that by making the playoffs and losing in a tight 7-game series against a more experienced Cavs team. So now it only makes sense that with the experience they had last year, they'll be even better in this coming season out in the Eastern Conference. And if Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero just continue to sharpen up their offensive game, especially Paolo with his three-point shooting, a deep playoff run could be in the near future for Orlando. So those are 3 young teams who I think are going to make monumental leaps this coming season. And if there are any that I missed, let me know in the comment section. But I am really excited to see just how far these young squads take things into this upcoming 2024-25 season.